What's going on, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel, and thank you all for tuning in. As always, really appreciate each and every one of you. It's your boy Matty B, and for today's video, we're going to do a post-race review from round 4 of the MXGP World Championship that went down in Trentino in Italy over the weekend. We're a few days late, but it was an epic weekend of racing in Italy where we saw an insane vintage Jeffrey Herlings ride from the Bullet in Moto 1 with Tim Gajser getting his first Moto win on a Yamaha in the other Moto. Febvre had some issues in qualifying, Coenen and Vial had some crashes, while the other Coenen actually kept it together for once and dominated the MX2 class on by far the most picturesque motocross track in the world. While Schugel just took its shirt off, but sorry PNW, Trentino is so beyond badass. It's a bucket list GP trip for me, but yeah, maybe one day. But before we get into all that stuff about the race, gotta give a huge thank you and a shout out to my channel sponsors. They're the ones who make all these videos possible and keep us going, so please y'all do me a favor and go check them out. These videos would not be possible without ASV Inventions, home of the Unbreakable Lever, and the new S1 Series Single Pivot Adjustable National. Sirius Studio, they can take care of all your merch needs from hats, sweatshirts, shirts, bags, etc. And of course, the designlabco.com, they got some great designs in their lab at their co, and if you need anything graphic related, then definitely look no further than there. I've got links, discount codes, and all that fun stuff in my video description, and if you guys buy from them, a small portion of the sale goes to me to help keep the channel going. So if you guys are supporting them, you are literally supporting me. Hope you enjoy the video, and thanks again for watching. First off, as always, before we get into the results, we'll just breeze through some thoughts on the track. And there's a lot of classic old tracks in Italy, but I think this one was added in the 2010s. I think it's one of the newer ones, and it started out as a track that was way too tight and didn't really seem to work too well for GPs. It seemed like the guys on the 450s, it was like trying to take an 18-wheeler truck through a drive-through. It just wouldn't fit, but over the years, they made a lot of revisions, and they've even turned the track backwards a couple years ago for what seems to be a much improved layout in 2026. They used to have a massive monstrous triple jump off the start, and they took that out for this year, but other than that, I think it was about the same track as previous years. It's definitely one of the smaller and tighter tracks on the calendar, even after all the recent modifications, and the dirt seems to be far from ideal. It's pretty much a mix of rocks and ice in the National, but the best part of this place, by far, is the location itself, because Trentino is straight up beautiful. Insane scenery, for sure the best backdrop in motocross history. Always makes for some epic photos, but this track tends to be a little bit start dependent for most riders, but Herlings proved that if you're fast enough, then this track does have ways to get the moves done. So with that being said, now let's get into the results, starting with the 450 class, and we'll get a little bit more in depth in the 450s. I actually watched both motos, where the 250s, I kind of just watched the highlights, but with the win in the 450 MXGP class, a 1 and a 2 for Jeffrey Herlings for the overall win, and that was some vintage Jeffrey Herlings stuff in Moto 1. That was what we used to see back in 2018, back when he was on the KTM, just fully going beast mode, because towards the end of the moto, last 8 to 10 minutes, he started going crazy fast, like 4 to 5 seconds a lap faster than anybody else on the track. It seemed like he was back in like the 5 spot and it was about over. He wasn't going to be able to catch those guys, but then he just started reeling off lap times several seconds lap faster than everybody. He goes from like 5th to 1st late in the first moto, and we've seen that from him before on the KTM, but it's really cool to see him doing that on the Honda as well. Safe to say the transition to ride red, get ahead has been very good for Herlings. A little bit weird that he's actually won the 2 harder packed races of the year, and then he's gotten beat in the sand. I feel like that's kind of the opposite of what we usually see out of Herlings, but there's been a lot of talk about the Honda being better in the hard pack and not quite as good in the sand, so kind of makes sense. Just got a nice runner-up ride behind Tim Gajser in the second moto. Almost caught him, but Tim was on one, so congrats to him. But overall win, 1 and a 2 for Herlings. He's still second in points behind Coenen, and not too many points in it, and it's still so early in the championship, so this thing is wide open. Anybody could really take it. But then in the second spot, second overall for Tim Gajser with a 4 and a 1, his first ever moto win on the Yamaha, and man, this came at a good time for him, because the first couple of rounds weren't great. I think he broke some ribs at the third round, so he came in beaten and battered, but still came out and put his best foot forward. Best ride of the season with a moto win in the second moto, and yeah, Arco di Trento is always good for Gajser. He's got tons of fans there. It's the closest race to Slovenia, I think, and he just always seems to have good vibes there, so this was the perfect place for him to come to life. But yeah, awesome to see that he's finally got some form on the Yamaha, a 4 and a 1. That's what we're looking for, so hopefully Gajser can continue that momentum moving forward. Then rounding out the podium, a 3rd place for Tom Vial with a 3 and a 6, and he had a crash in the second moto to go back to 6th, and whenever that happened, I was kind of thinking, you know, Vial has this reputation of crazy consistency and never crashes and this and that, but I actually think Vial makes a lot more mistakes than he's given credit for. I mean, even in his second Supercross season, he got last at one of the races. He's crashed out of several pro motocross races, and he's had a few crashes already in MXGP this year. He is super solid, but he's got a lot more crashes than people realize. But still, a crash in the second moto, still getting a 3rd overall, a great first moto. I'm pretty sure he was good in the qualifier too. Definitely a very successful return to MXGP for Tom Vial. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Euro Tom Vial and American Tom Vial, they are not the same guy. But that was the podium. Then we got Kai DeWolf in fourth with a 7 and a 4, matching his number. And yeah, still good riding for DeWolf, coming back from that thumb injury, missing the first round. I feel like he's still kind of building back into it. He said in some interviews that he's still not at 100%. And I even heard something about that he hurt the other thumb now. So he's riding with 2 bad thumbs, just hanging on for dear life. But with all that being considered, I feel like a 4th is really good for DeWolf, so hopefully he can keep building as well. And then rounding out the top 5, Tim Gajser's Yamaha teammate Maxime Renault, a 5.5 for 5th, very consistent and a very solid day. And I think it's been a pretty good start to the season for Renault. You know, he's got a lot of potential. He is a 450 MXGP winner, but he's also had a lot of injuries, a couple of bad seasons in a row, so I feel like just these solid results, stacking these, it's exactly what Renault needs, so good work from Maxime. And then outside of the top 5, a 6 for Roman Febvre, a 2 and a 12. Great first moto. He had that thing in the bag. He should have won it if Herlings didn't go full bullet beast mode, but second moto, not good with the 12th, and the reason for that, Febvre had a DNF in the qualifying race. I think it was an issue with a wheel or something, but it was mechanical. And in the GPs, you get your gate picks for Sunday based on how you do in the qualifying race on Saturday. So he had last gate pick, and the first moto, I have no idea how this happened, but the dude pulled a rabbit out of the hat and got a gate right in the middle and ripped the whole shot, so that was pretty crazy. But second moto, he had to start out in the next county, or the next country, I should say, and only got back to 12th. It's a tight track that's tough to pass on, so yeah, that was Febvre's weekend, and then a 7th place for Lucas Coenen. Worst weekend of the year for him with a 12 and a 3 in that first moto. I think he started around 4th or 5th and then blitzed his way towards the front. I think he had just gotten up to 2nd, then he had a second lap crash. A little bit weird. He was trying to get up, and the dude was just so focused on looking behind him. Maybe he was worried about getting mowed over by a 450 or something. I don't know, but it took him forever to get up. Only was able to muster a 12th in the first moto. I think he might have even had another crash after that one, but then a 3rd in the second moto. I'm sure it wasn't what he was looking for after the last 2 GPs in a row he's had where he's pretty much dominated, but still on a day that's not a good day for you, if you can salvage a 3rd in the second moto when you're not feeling great, I feel like that's what championship rides are made of, and that's got to be what Coenen's looking for this year. I'm thinking he's the favorite in my mind, and he's got to be thinking the same, so not the best weekend, but still he salvaged it. He still got that red plate, and then rounding out the top 10, we got Ruben Fernandez 8th. Didn't see or hear much from him, but he's a solid top 5, top 10 guy every weekend. And then his Spanish countryman, 9th place for Oriol Oliveira. Super impressive season from this dude. I feel like he's not even doing that much worse in MXGP than he used to do in MX2. I don't really remember any highlights or any great results out of him on the 250, but he's jumped up into the 450, and he's hanging with guys that are just been in this thing for years. So, yeah, really, really impressive riding. Standout results from Oriol Oliveira. And then rounding out the top 10, Febvre's Cowie teammate, Paul's Jonas. A little bit of a lackluster start to the year for him. I feel like he's shown speed, but the results just haven't quite been there. So maybe he's been having some other issues. Maybe some racing incidents have taken him out of contention. I don't know. It's hard to watch all the way down to 10th when the broadcast is watching a battle for the lead, but that was the top 10. And then looking at the rest of this field, it is insane how stacked MXGP is. Like, I can't even describe it. I feel like it's so much deeper than Pro Motocross here is in the States, but 11 through 20, we got Andrea Adamo, MX2 World Champion, 11th. Calvin Vlanderen, MXGP winner, 12th. Thibaut Benestant, multi-time MX2 winner, 13th. And then Jan Panzer, 14th. We saw him running with RJ Hampshire at the MXON. And then Kevin Hordmo, very popular and really fast privateer, 15th. And then Ferrato, 16th. He's always good. Guadagnini, 17th. He's a GP winner. Van de Moosdijk is at least a GP Moto winner in the 250 class in 18th. And then 19th, Andrea Bonacorsi, factory Ducati. And then rounding out the top 20, we got Koch, Cook. I don't know. I'm going to go with Koch. I'm not even going to bleep it out, but just insane depth in this field. And then even out of the top 20, we got 22nd, Jago Geerts, who definitely should have been an MX2 champion for several years in a row, but he's a factory beta rider. Out of the top 20, we got Ben Watson on the Triumph, 23rd. Jeremy Sewer all the way down in 36th on the Ducati. I think he had some different issues over the weekend, so I don't think that's exactly like a straight-up 36th. There's no way it is, but there's even been some rumors floating around of maybe a split between Jeremy Sewer and Ducati, and maybe Sewer coming and racing Pro Motocross for a team over here, so that could be a cool development. And then even all the way down in 38th, a bad run so far this season for the Betas because their other rider, Rick Elzinga, is all the way down in 38th. So just an insane field in MXGP. Even these guys that you don't know, I can tell you they are so fast. It's actually crazy. But that was the 450 class. Then we'll jump into the 250 class, just kind of breeze through this. But a 1-1, made like a broom and swept it for Sasha Coenen. Got that points lead all the way down to within 3 points from Simone Langenfelder, so he's closed the gap massively just in this one weekend. But awesome riding. This is what Sasha Coenen does when he doesn't wad up. I mean, he's always got the speed, he's got the talent, but sometimes he's like a jack in the box. You're watching him and you're just waiting for him to pop, but never popped all weekend. Perfect weekend and a great weekend for Sasha Coenen. Then a second for Guillaume Ferrez, a 3-2 for second overall. And I feel like that's a really good bounce back for Guillaume. He's had a couple of bad rounds in a row after a really good start to the season. Both him and McClellan on the other tri-muff. They came out hot, but then they've had a couple of bad rounds in a row. So good for Ferrez to get back on the box. We all love box around here. And then first podium of the year, third overall for Matisse Villan, a 2 and a 7. Awesome first moto. I feel like that's what a lot of people have touted him to do. A lot of people have predicted him to possibly win some GPs this year, but a 7th in the second moto, nothing to really write home about, but still he got himself on the box. And this is a good surface for those French guys, because when you grow up in France, you live on the hard pack. Their tracks are all concrete, so one could have expected a good ride out of Villan here. And then definitely the standout ride in the MX2 class, a 4th overall for Julius Mikola, a 6-4 for the Czech rider, and he had a good race last weekend in Sardinia. Now he's just building upon it. Crazy great results, crazy momentum out of this dude. I don't think he's ever finished anywhere close to this. I don't know a ton about him, but definitely never seen his name this far up in the results, so great riding for him. And then a 5 and a 5 for 5th for Carlos Regulus. At least he beat the little brother, because the little brother's been kind of laying the wood to him, so good job for Carlos. Then a 6th overall for the points leader, Simone Langenfelder. Not the weekend he was looking for. A bad qualifying race, a 10th in the first moto, and a 3rd in the second moto, so at least he ended the weekend on a high, but definitely lost a big-ass handful of points to Sasha Coenen, and now that thing's within spitting distance, so hopefully we get a little MX2 points battle brewing up here, because I thought Langenfelder was going to run away with it. Then a 7th for Liam Everts, a 4 and a 9. This is not going to cut it for a guy that I kind of thought was going to be a title contender, and I feel like a lot of other guys have too, but the 4th in the first moto, not horrible, but then he wadded up in the second moto. First lap, like 3 corners in, just face planted, and he came back for a 9th, a salvage ride, but he's already several points down, and when I say several, I mean way more than several, actually. A huge handful of points down, so I feel like the title, not looking great for Everts unless he starts going on a huge run. But then to finish out this top 10 in the 250 class, at 8th for Kai Carson-Makers. I think he's been in the top 10 the last 3 weekends. I don't know much about him, but that's a solid run of results. Then a 9th for Yanis Regulus. Killer didn't really kill anybody last weekend. He got a 12 and a 6. And then rounding out the top 10, Camden McClellan with an 8 and an 11. Definitely not what he's looking for. He started out the season so good. He came into round 3 with the red plate, and then that's kind of where everything has started to fall apart for him. 2 bad weekends in a row, and now he's already way out of it. So yeah, MXGP's gnarly. Every weekend is a completely different surface. So one weekend you could be feeling like a hero, and the next weekend you're struggling, feeling like you're fighting for your life in downtown Minneapolis. So anything can happen. That's why they dropped the gate. But that's my review from round 4 of MXGP in Italy from Trentino. Awesome weekend of racing. Really hope you guys enjoyed the video. And as always, please let me know what you thought of the video in the comments. If you liked it, if you disliked it, if you agree with my takes, if you disagree with my takes, if I don't know what I'm talking about, if I'm just a cooked unit idiot, any of that kind of stuff. It's all in the contract. Throw it my way. But we got a 1-month break in this series, and it resumes in France next month in May. So we'll catch you then. Thanks again for watching, and see you in the next one. No choice.